as a new dad, I was looking for ways to get information and just, resources to become a better dad. And I thought, what better way than to just talk to actual dads? So for the first episode, I'm actually riding along with my own pops and my son, just like old days where I'd hop in the back seat and he would take me home from practice or from school. So hope you guys enjoy. All right. Well, how does it feel to be an empty nester? You got everyone graduated from college. I guess Grace still has another year left, but mostly everyone is out the house. How are you feeling about that?
I feel relieved. I feel, honestly, there's still a connection. So it's not like I feel like I'm ready to like go jump off a bridge. But it does feel good knowing that everybody had a goal and they were able to accomplish their goal. And it's good to see that everyone is happy. But me personally, as a father, you never feel completely satisfied with having an empty nest until they're established with families of their own.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think you said something to me before. I was like, well, when does the sleep get better? In 18 years? And like, no, it doesn't. I still think about you. I still have to be up thinking about you. So that's funny when I talk to other parents. I'm just like, so essentially my life as I know it, forever, I'm going to be up at night thinking about something. And it's funny because I took a trip. We went to South Carolina for Grace's graduation. And I was still waking up every 3 hours checking my phone like, okay, is everyone okay? How's it going? I'm like, that was supposed to be my time to sleep straight through the night. I'm like, damn, that was my first taste of, so there's always going to be something in the back of my mind like, is this person okay? And then to your situation, 5 of them, I don't even know how your mind feels when you lay down to sleep. Like, what is everyone up to right now?
Well, geography, your ear is always pinned to the news as to what's going on out in the world. And then the first thing you comes to mind is, do I have a child in that area? And you worry about, are they part of that? Because the reality is that is somebody's child that is in that area, that is probably stuck in the middle of a storm or something tragic has happened, in the city or something. So you're always wondering or thinking, are they somehow connected in that? So no, you really don't. Especially having 5, you don't find peace.
Yeah, and everyone kind of spread out, which I always think is funny, especially like a Minnesota family like we are. And a lot of our family is right here in Minneapolis, but we all went our separate ways. Like Jonah went obviously to Harvard and he was in Boston, then Jalen to Princeton. Me, I went out west. Olivia kind of moved around a lot, but then she ended up in Oklahoma, and then Grace obviously way in South Carolina. Is that something that you were always like, I hope my kids kind of spread out and get out of Minnesota and come back? Or did that kind of just happen? I remember just going through like my recruiting process. You guys were definitely like open versus you hear some parents are just like, I need you within driving distance so I can see every game. But I really feel like you and mom were kind of just like whatever the best opportunity was. Were you kind of open to that, or did you hope one of us, maybe 2 were like, no, I'm going to stay closer to home?
Well, it's funny that you obviously wasn't paying close attention in the recruiting process. Talking to coaches that, no, I've never felt it was important for you guys to stay home. I've always said, never let, regardless our situation financially or whatever, play a role in your decision as to what school you felt was going to give you the best opportunity for you to be successful. And whether it's on the East Coast or the West Coast, the Midwest, wherever you felt comfortable, I always felt that's where you should go. And the only way you were going to grow as a person was to choose a place that you were most comfortable with. I mean, I recall Jonah sitting on the end of the bed saying he didn't want to go. Boxes were packed. We're sitting on the bed. We're ready to load up in the morning, and it was kind of sad, but I knew he was ready. And I knew if he was ready to go, the rest of you would follow his lead and make those same decisions for your futures.
Yeah. And I definitely feel that, especially with Jonah. It's interesting once you start thinking about multiple kids, how the first one kind of trailblazes a lot. A lot of the stuff that I still do as an adult, I feel like you put into him, and then he put into us just by example, showing up early for workouts, his work ethic, obviously the school he picked. But that just made me think a little bit more about why was education so important to you and Mom when it came to us about, I mean, even before we started picking the college we picked or high school, just in middle school, we all, cared about education, had a love for it. Whether we loved school or not, it kind of was just part of our household that the expectation was that you cared about school and you did well in school. And it's just funny how many parents, come up to us, come up to you guys all the time, and you're just like, how did you get 5, college athletes? Like, what is the secret? What do you say when people come up and ask you that? Or what was your mindset when you were raising all of us when it was thinking about education and school in particular?
The thought process with that is you guys were all pretty sound thinkers, and none of you were the class clown. You were not comedians. So right there it told me that education was going to be your goal in life. And I mean, your mom had a little bit more perspective on those challenges of connecting the dots with your education. I was more of a athletic person, so the two dynamics worked, but knowing that how well you guys did in high school, that you were going to have to choose a school that was going to challenge you to continue those challenges like you got in high school. I mean, it just made sense for you guys to choose academic schools because you were very sound academically in high school, and I mean throughout your whole middle school, and you were good listeners, and the compliments that we always got from your teachers were always positive. So you guys made it easy. I mean, let's just say that we just kind of laid a foundation, and you guys kind of took it to another level.
One of the things I was most excited when I had Luther was I was like, I can't wait to coach his AAU team. And basically just every team. I was like, I don't know why that was the one thing that I was one of the most excited things about was I get to be the coach of his team and just see his development. You coached us in basketball, football, soccer, baseball, basically anything you can think of, and all of us through all levels. Why was that so important to you to say, I don't want to just come to the games and support you guys like a lot of parents, but you actually wanted to take the role as the coach and coach multiple teams at the same time? Why was that something that was so important and that you wanted to make a focus?
Well, it was a couple of thoughts on that. The most important thing is I enjoy working with young people, and it was an opportunity to bring the community together, families together, kids together. And if you're a parent, I mean, I was a park and rec kid growing up, and so I've had coaches, and I was able to take some of what I've got from them and bring it to the community that we lived in, and I wanted it to be safe and fun. And then it became that you guys were able to excel. Your motor skills were off the chart for your age. And then that understanding what sports could do for a person or a young person's career, if you were to mix academics with athletics, the sky's the limit. And it was important for me to be part of that growth process. I wanted you guys to excel in important roles. You were pitchers, you were quarterbacks, you were pretty much the lead, which kind of comes with being the coach. You're able to put your child in those lead positions, and in just understanding that you guys are able to make good decisions with friends, which is just as important as being a good athlete. You got to be able to choose good kids to hang around with, and we never had a problem with that. You guys always made good choices with your friends. I mean, sleepovers, going to movies, hanging out, just having a good time. It was always good to get to know other parents and know what their home life was like. And I always felt comfortable if a kid was to say, could you sleep over? I never even questioned if it was going to be a good situation for you. And we enjoyed that. And it was able to bring growth in those relationships. I mean, you end up playing high school basketball with some of those kids, or high school sports with some of the kids you were in toddler school with. And that was because you played rec sports, and me being able to coach you help with other coaches being able to recognize your skills and wanted you to join their programs.
Yeah, oh, for sure. One thing I was thinking about too, because we were just talking about that lemonade stand that kid had in my neighborhood, and it's funny. I feel like a common thing that they say to all of us is like, you guys are some of the hardest workers we've ever been around, whether that's school, basketball. It's funny, I used to always tell Jordan, my wife, whenever she'd see me at Stanford, she'd be like, you got this? I'm like, I'm a grinder, like I'm gonna figure it out. And I credit a lot of that too, just like we had newspaper routes, we did, yellow pages, we had a lawn company that we did as kids, snow removal. We kind of had a bunch of hustles that, son, what do you think about that? You said, I don't want to do snow removal. Okay, I get that. That's fair. Can I get back to my question? What was it that was like, this is something that is important that they should do? Because honestly, I look at him and I'm like, no matter what, he is going to have a little hustle. He needs to understand that if you want something, you have to put the time in to get it. And I vividly remember like tournaments. It's like, if you want to go out of town for a tournament, okay, you can rake leaves, you can mow lawns. Like, it built in me that you need to have skin in the game. And I use that even till today. It's like, things matter to me because I put the investment, I put the time in. I'm not looking for someone to come save me or something's gonna happen for me. And I really always think back to when I was a kid. Like, I remember passing out flyers for my lawn care service, and it's funny, we just ran into that kid in the neighborhood that was doing the same thing. And I'm like, I miss that. Like, that is like the purest version of just being a hustler and just grinding, and that stuff like sticks with you. And I think about Luther, I'm like, what business can I get him started on that can put that same itch in him? Was that something that was intentional? Was that something you did as a kid? Or is it just like, this is just, I want you guys just to have exposure to doing these little businesses here and there?
I mean, the reality is that it was intentional. You're not born with a silver spoon in your mouth, and there was no way you were going to make it in life unless you understood how things work. I mean, nothing's given to you. I mean, nothing. I mean, you think you're going to go on these AAU basketball tournaments, which, you know, we were able to cover the large chunk of it, which was the fees and the dues to get you on the team. But then it became, well, you want meals, you want to go shopping with some of the other kids. I mean, no, you were not going to go buy a brand new pair of sneakers, but maybe you wanted to buy some socks or maybe a pair of sunglasses. I don't know, whatever kids wanted to buy when they went shopping on the mall in between games. Well, that had to come from you to make some extra money to help cover that. I mean, that was on you. If you want to go shopping at the mall with your friends during AAU tournaments, or do you want to sit in your hotel room, or do you want to watch them eat McDonald's or whatever? And that had to come from you. Like I said, your mom and I, we did the best we could to make sure that you were part of the team, and we paid your fees. I mean, that wasn't cheap. I mean, and for a young person to understand that at your age was really important. You guys did a good job of that. You understood that. I don't know if it took one or two tournaments and saying, dang, if only I had mowed grandma's lawn, or I had got up like dad told me to and got that little work done, and I would have had an extra $20, $25 in my pocket. Sometimes it takes that to get your attention. Not everybody wants to do that. I know my parents didn't have money for me to do those extra things. And as there was 8 of us, and I knew my parents didn't have extra money. I mean, they did what they could to keep the lights on, and food on the table. But boy, if you start talking,
you were just talking about your family, son. Eight brothers and sisters. How was it growing up in your household? And like, how was your dad? Is there anything you take from him? How has that influenced you being a father? And like, how has that perspective kind of molded you into who you are?
I mean, there was 2 routes of both good and bad, from my perspective anyway. I mean, mostly good, but I would say, I'll start with the bad part, was he never had time to be involved in our lives for sporting events. He was always on the road. He was always working. And when he was working, he was probably trying to relax. So he never understood the whole part about chasing us around in the community and being involved in our lives on that level. But as an adult, looking back on it, he had to work as hard as he did. He had 8 kids. And we had a big house. I mean, you don't put 8 kids in a 1-bedroom house. So we had a big house, and we never starved. We always had food. And that's because he worked hard. And so just understanding that, I mean, obviously as a kid, God, my dad never went to my games. My dad never did this, and I wasn't around for that. But now as an adult, you understand why. He did what he had to do to make sure that we never went without. I mean, we had shoes, we had clothes. The bills were always paid. I mean, and food was always on the table. May not always been what you wanted to eat, but there was food on the table. And looking back on that's just the way life was. And now, good thing was that I took from that was, in going back to the question about why it was important for me to coach, not having a father there, and me internally wanting a father there, I was able to be there for you guys, coaching you. And so I took from what I didn't get and gave to my kids. So that was important. And then understanding that how he needed to work, well, that's also goes back to the question of, your work ethic. I mean, you wanted something, you had to work for it. I mean, back when I was growing up, I mean, you had to pick and choose your friends. You had friends that wanted to take what they wanted, and you had friends that wanted to work for what they wanted. Well, even though he worked a lot, my dad worked a lot, and both my parents worked a lot. If they found you did something wrong, I don't care if it was taking a 2-cent bubble gum from a department grocery store, the local grocery store. If he heard about it, he would lay down the hand of the law. And that's just his way of telling us, if you wanted that 2-cent piece of gum, then you either come to him and ask for it, or you get a job and pay for it. I don't care if you were sweeping the back of a grocery store, anything, delivering newspapers. You did the right thing. And so there was good and bad, but you have to take the bad and turn it into good. Like I said, I mean, he wasn't there 24/7 to be part of our lives. I mean, I don't even think he knew who half my friends were. But I took that to the next level. Whatever he didn't do, I did. But I don't judge him, or don't hold anything against my parents. I mean, they raised good kids, 8 of us. I mean, we were all very, very solid-minded individuals.
Yes, it's interesting how, with even me, like seeing the stuff you're talking about, how it is just like part of me, and it is just like the fabric of who I am. Like, I remember I was dealing with my situation this past season where I was trying to decide where we're going to have Luther born. And we were overseas at the time, and things happen. I was like, I'm gonna move home and have him born in the U.S. And I just remember having that conversation with you. And it's just like, it's important for you to be around for that type of stuff. It's like, it's gonna be a tough career decision, trying to figure out, am I here in the States? What does that look like? And I just remember that conversation. It meant a lot to me because it's just like, it's important for you to be here for him, like, and to be in his life. When that's not always the feedback I got from other men, and granted that was like business-wise, those people had an interest in me not being around my family. They want me just focused on that. But the way you put it, it made a lot of sense. It was just like, it's important for Luther to see me in his life, regardless of how old he is. Like that matters in me always being there. And that's one thing I've always like loved about my childhood, and how many people come to me and they're like, your pops was like a dad to me. Like, I just remember the car being filled with other kids that needed a ride home or sleepovers, like the mentorship that you gave other people. It's like, yeah, that's something that I want to have. Like, I want those kids over at my house and my son to know that, yeah, I'm always going to be there for you. I'm always going to find the time to be at the things that are important to you.
In reality, that is the best way to raise a child. There are things that's going to go on in a kid's life that you don't get do-overs. Like one day I was running late from work to get to one of Jonah's basketball games. And I got to the game. I probably missed the first 3 minutes of the game. And somebody said, you missed your son's first dunk. And I'm thinking to myself, well, he's going to have to do it again. But the key word was his first dunk. I would have loved to have been there to have seen that. And Jonah even said it after the game, Dad, where were you? You missed my first dunk. And I was like, God, I'm sorry, son. I mean, I'm stuck in traffic. I was rushing, trying to get to the game and get there on time. But yeah, and he was aware of that. And there are things that your kids take note of that, and if you're not involved in their life, I mean, it's like, how are you going to feel when Jordan tells you Luther took his first steps? And you'll be like, man, did you record it? She goes, I didn't have the camera ready, and you missed it. Well, you won't be able to see that again. I mean, yes, he's going to walk. He's going to run. He's going to do a lot of things throughout his life. But it's going to be like, you're going to miss out on a lot of things by not being there. And yes, there's going to be things you will miss, like I missed Jonah's first dunk. Yes. You're going to miss his first kiss. I mean, there's just things you're going to miss. You're not going to be able to be part of everything, and that's allowing them to grow up. But at the same time, there are things that you can help throughout your life that, by being there, you won't miss out on. And that's always been important to me, to be part of, a lot of the success you have. What I'd like to have seen more of your college basketball games, yes. What I'd like to have been overseas with you and watch you play, yes. But obviously, circumstances didn't allow that to happen, but you want to be there for his development and his growth. And if you get a chance, if you're blessed to fit it into your life, to coach him and be at all of his games, then that's the true blessing in life, to be able to be there for your kids.
That's great. You just talked about Luther. How's being grandpa now? How has that changed?
Well, I mean, it's obviously seeing how well you guys all turned out. um, there's an excitement of wanting to see how well what I stored in you that you're able to pass on to him. And me personally, I mean, it just tickles me inside. I mean, it's almost like I want to say, what took you so long?
I am 30, so that's not, that's not, I think that's a respectful age.
But no, I'm very much like just overwhelmed and overjoyed. I mean, I talk about them all the time. I mean, I'm at work. I tell people, my first grandchild, and I mean, no, I'm loving it. I can't wait to see his development and see how you support his growth and see where he goes, with his life. And at the same time, enjoy these precious moments. Don't grow up too fast. Don't want them to grow up too fast, because when they do, I'm not going to say when they do. I mean, they will grow up eventually, but don't wish those days by too fast. Don't sit and say, I can't wait till he can start dribbling the ball. I can't wait for him to start running, because I can tell you right now, when they start running, the running doesn't stop. They're going to run right out of the state. And as much as I was excited for you guys to leave the state and go off to college, I miss you. I mean, that's just plain and simple. I mean, you miss your kids. I mean, the house is empty, and when you're used to every room being occupied and small talk, chitter chatter, and and now the house is empty. You will miss them. So just enjoy having these little footsteps and this little process of growing up.
Yeah, he's definitely slowed me down. I feel like is the biggest thing. Like you're saying, it's just like I feel like I was so rush, career, all this stuff. But now with him, it's like I don't want to miss a moment. And he reminds you how quick time goes. I feel like when they start developing so quick, I don't need to look at a calendar to know time is going. He couldn't hold his head up, a month ago, and now he's up looking at me, looking across the room. And it's just been special to just kind of remind myself, like, no, I don't want it to go anywhere. This is everything. This is the most special part of this whole process, is having him here. And I think the cool thing is about having him around his grandparents, which is special. I mean, we got to grow up with, our grandparents in the same city as us, and why that was so important for us to move back home. And people ask me all the time, it's just like, why the move from LA back to Minneapolis, and why did you do that? I'm like, it's simple. It's family. It's just like, you can't beat that feeling when your son gets to see his grandparents around, like, and multiple times, not getting on an airplane, not anything, just multiple times a week. He's going to have other parents' voices to him. I can't be the only voice he hears. It's going to be nice to have other people that he loves and are part of his family raising him. And that's always something that I felt like it was important to me.
Kids don't come with, as everyone always says, doesn't come with a learning manual. And when you're able to be around grandparents and great-grandparents, if you're blessed to have great-grandparents around, you take some of their wisdom and apply that. You don't necessarily have to do it their way, but you can somehow listen to it. I mean, I grew up in the day and age from grandparents. When you got a chest cold, they rubbed
Vicks.
No, it wasn't Vicks. They rubbed the stuff that comes in a sardine can, that oil on your chest. And so you smell like fish when you went to bed. I mean, yes, that's comes because that's how they were raised, their wisdom of how to treat a sick child. But it was just that it was done out of love, and you didn't just put a child in a room and let them figure out how to get well themselves. I mean, they all want to add their remedy to how to help you feel better, so you're back to your normal self. I mean, and then there's the part of them saying how important your education is, and you're going to hear that a lot from elders, and sometimes you get tired, and Luther would be able to hear us tell him how important it is to stay on top of his schoolwork. He may want to go play pickup ball with his friends or whatever, and you'll be like, did you get your homework done? He'll hear that from us, and to hear it from you as well. It just, that magnitude that it will set in for a kid, how important it is to get your homework done.
Yeah, he needs it. Well, we're home. That's it. Dang, it's like you actually know what you're doing or something. I feel older and wiser after the conversation.
I am 63 years old.